So this is a visual record of the submission, sort of a complaint or feedback that we send in to this new project that the Mayor of West Yorkshire is doing in connection with the bus companies. It's called Your Voice, the Big Bus Chat. Well, that's what they're promoting it as. So this is what I've written. I'm not going to read it out, but I'll scroll down it all so it's all recorded, because what they're doing is they're actually asking you to give comments and feedbacks, but then they're moderating them all. So it may well be that your comment even doesn't get published. So I hope even if they don't publish it on their website, they still take them into account and record them, because this is what's happening to this country. The fundamental basis of rights, like your right to enter an objection or your right to complain, seems to be being slowly removed. It seems to be that the government and the authorities seem to be wanting to now say that they can edit or remove or not publish actual legitimate complaints, you know, and it's getting to the fact where, like in Ireland, when they do planning now, when they build massive amounts of houses, like 400 plus houses, you can't even actually enter an observation. You can't even make an observation or enter a comment on them unless you pay 20 euros. It's like our rights have been taken away. And the actual evidence I'm submitting for the local area, the attack on heritage, which is actually in connection with the tram station in Dalton that ended up becoming the Yorkshire Tiger and now TRANSDEV. So the creation of that TRANSDEV bus depot is intimately connected with the spoiling of our local heritage site and area, and it's getting built on. The council are trying to build on it, which has just been in the newspaper again. We're trying to oppose this building. It's actually, the whole thing's tied together, because the bus services that they're running and then the cycling lanes are wanting to bring in, it's all tied together into the building and planning of the local area and the management of the bus routes. It's all teamwork. The council are a collaborating team with the bus company and with these developers like Earl Dartmouth. So it's difficult to do. We've been collecting petition signatures and we get to amalgamate them. I've written a petition that spiders them all together and makes it into one subject relevant to all the other petitions, because I've created a petition for a designated area to protect. So all the other petitions that are objecting to housing within that area can be all amalgamated together, or must be, as well as the ones for Castle Hill, because it's about protecting the heritage site and the land as part of one area. And we've already got over 6,000 signatures, and that's without even adding the other signatures from the other petitions to oppose housing for that area of land. So I don't know what Tony Earnshaw's going on about in the newspaper about, the council planning to continue with it. It's like they don't want the petition to exist, they're just ignoring it, even though they've already got 1,000 signatures, even though the local council's already signed it. And another thing that I want to mention is, while I'm scrolling through this, because this is all the wording of my complaint that's separate to what I'm talking about now, actually, in terms of the website, I don't think that Big Bus Chat website and the forms are very user compatible, particularly if you're an old person. Like the KIRKLEES Council forms for objecting to and giving comment to the developments for the town centre, they're very difficult. And they're quite off-putting, and they can be quite misleading. I've got to the end of that, scrolling down that now, so you can go back in slow motion. It's got all the complaint recorded. So the forms are very unuser-friendly. I've been on a lot of council websites around this country, like Shropshire Council and the councils in Devon, and some of them have got absolutely brilliant forms that are very easy to use and very user-friendly, right? For example, even the Lib Dems' main political party website, of the Liberal Democrats, when you go into the contact form, it's so easy and simple. It's very user-friendly, right? Now, when we come to this big Mayor's Big Chat, right, which she's got all the posters on all the buses now promoting it, which it's quite well promoted to know that it exists. right? I took a photograph of it. I think it might be difficult to find it unless you Google it or take a photograph of the poster, right? But, so I got on the website, and I don't think that site, it makes it sound like you want to have a chat and a conversation about it, and you can go on there and not only just enter comments to the mayor or to the bus companies, but you can also see what other people are saying. But yeah, it's all heavily moderated, and to actually enter the message, I think it's misleading to what it actually is. Although I will say one positive thing about it, the actual poster itself, the existence of that new advert on the buses is itself a good advertisement to encourage people to talk to each other on the buses, which the talking buses were quite opposing to. Having talking buses really makes people shut up and be quiet, and it ends up getting to be like the sort of atmosphere in London on the tubes where nobody talks to each other and nobody chats, which is horrible. I think London is a failure in culture and a failure in communities, really. We've got a small community bus, the X41, and it's very, very talkative. People in the community talk to each other, and it's actually a positive force for the neighbourhood and for the area. And that's what we're losing with all these talking buses and things like that, rather than people helping each other out and talking to each other and encouraging communities to grow, you know. So, and another thing is that there's a lot of factory owners and authorities who don't really like the gypsy community. Because, you know, when they used to park on spare bits of land, beautiful bits of land, nice bits of land, the thing with the travellers community is it's actually a culture and a way of life, if not really their own religion. It's a people. It's an ethnic group. And the government have actually been attacking that ethnic group and trying to remove its traditions, remove its way of life, remove its way of living. Yet they're bringing in laws themselves, the government, where you can't discriminate against sex, you can't discriminate against colour, you can't discriminate against ethnicity or age. And also, you can't discriminate against someone's culture or religion or belief, yet, in contradiction to their own laws they're bringing in, they're actually attacking and trying to wipe out the traveller gypsy type culture. Now, I actually used to deliver to quite a few fairground places for work on occasion, and I used to get tips off them, and I used to find them were actually quite nice people and all right, you know. I actually, you know, I never had any problems with that type of community, right? Now, I think that the government are very hypocritical. When they don't like something or want something, they do everything they can to try and stop it, even when they're in contradiction to the things that they're actually doing currently, which is insane. It's just ridiculous, insane. And on these forms, when you join the Big Bus Chat website and go through to sign up to it, it asks you what ethnicity you are. It asks you if you're like British, white. It usually asks you if you're Irish or Caucasian or whatever ethnicity group you are. You've got to complete your own information. Now, what they've done now is they've actually included gypsy travellers on that form, but they've put it in with Irish. So they've put, are you Irish or gypsy traveller, right? So I don't really know what they're getting at with that. Are they trying to group gypsies in with Irish, you know, and say that it's not an actual British culture? Or are they trying to rubbish it, you know, or what? I'm not keen on what the government are actually doing. They're so hypocritical. I mean, we've already had Boris Johnson step down, you know, and part of this opposition to the TRANSDEV buses that I'm strongly opposed to what TRANSDEV are doing at Huddersfield. And part of the petition that is opposing the land developments that Earl Dartmouth have got, I've got evidence that connects TRANSDEV and the creation of the tram station, the history of it, with Earl Dartmouth and the peerage, King George, creating the ICI, within that area, which was the land of Ramsden, John Williams Ramsden, that got bought by Sam Copley after he come back from Australia with loads of money, and then got sold to Huddersfield Corporation Act, and then Earl Dartmouth ended up with some of that land that he's now building houses of, Earl Dartmouth, and then they've renamed the buses the Darts, the D1 and D2 Darts, and they've got all these characters on the buses, which I don't like, very sinister drawn characters, and they go past the heritage site that I'm trying to protect, that's got attacked, which I've got evidence on. Now, all this is critical evidence, and not only that, the videos that I've submitted in here, the links I've put in here, the 2 links there to the BlackRock Vanguard evidence of what's been happening with all the companies and the shares of the contractors who the council employs to their local contracts like KIRKLEES, Alpha Beta, Taylor Wimpey, all these companies that I've investigated for putting illegal road signage out, and the police helped them and won't prosecute them, yet it's KIRKLEES who've got the contract, for example, in Shropshire. These contractors who are also heavily involved in the building of houses, not only doing roads, they form teams with Huddersfield Town Football Ground. They have it on the bus, and they form teams, and the slogans and writing that they use on the buses, the wording, in collaboration with the Strategic Development Department, the Strategic Planning Department, who are also involved with developing the town centre and getting, £20 million or whatever it is, £200 million to redevelop the town centre, which also the forms for that are not the easiest to go through, right? It's all contractors who are profiting from those jobs and projects and profiting from doing the roadworks and highways, and it ends up being all shareholders going up in a hierarchy under control of BlackRock Vanguard, who is owned by Earl Dartmouth's peerage, who were the ones who helped with the ICI and end up trashing his local heritage site and establishing the tram station and removing visual access. And now we've got all the buses named after Earl Dartmouth, which I don't like these dart buses flying around, and the pictures on them aren't very nice either. These sinister characters that they've got on them, right? It's all connected together. It's tied into the bringing in of the green routes for the cycle routes. A lot of people were opposed to these cycle routes. We're finding an island that, the council and the government want to do cycle routes. Just because the council or government want to do it doesn't mean that we can't stop them. But yet, I'm actually getting petition signatures. I've got over 1,000 on mine, and it amalgamates automatically with the other signatures that I have written into my petition to create an area that includes and involves those areas, which have also got a lot of signatures to oppose housing within that area, because we're creating an area that is going to protect itself from housing, and everyone in that area gets to add their signatures together because it's going to be a named created area, which involves that area and all the heritage sites within that area. When they cast all the petitions, we'll have over, I've got 6,000 so far. We'll have enough to have a referendum about it. But yet we've got Tony Earnshaw in the newspaper writing up stories as if the council are going to carry on with these designated land area, as if the petition doesn't exist, as if Tony Earnshaw writes as if we don't exist. The council seems to continue as if the people don't exist. They did it with Flockton. Flockton Village didn't really want houses built there, right? And then when they failed in stopping them because the council ignored them and ploughed on, then the next resort was to try and get a bypass, which they got 6,000 or 8,000. They got about 8,000 signatures for that bypass petition, right? Because they got no other choice. They were forced into it. At Meltham, the people really didn't want houses built there. It's to do with the people who are the contractors want to make a profit out of that area, and the local people who live in the area surely have a say in deciding what happens in that area. But the councils are conducting themselves and behaving as if those people don't have a say and if they don't exist. Yet, we've got this virtue signalling thing. Virtue signalling is when political parties like Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem need to make it look like they care what the people think and they've got morals and virtues, and they say, oh, we're going to have the big mayor's big chat, or we're going to have your say on the town centre, right? They need to make it look like they're bothered and look like what you say counts. But when it comes to it, they don't. Because it was literally just virtue signalling and a lie so they could do what they want. Now, no one's profiting out of these projects on the buses, on the building of housing, or on roads, except the contractors who are a company with a profit. They're not doing it, they're not running it like public owned. They're actually a private business who is giving the contract, and it's for profit. And the shareholders are the Earl Dartmouth and his wider associates, which is proved in the video that Anonymous Official and Sora Ramel have done here in the link in front of us in blue there. It shows the hierarchy. And it's these contractors who, for profit, for the aristocracy, who placed the illegal road signs not only in West Yorkshire and in Shropshire, all around the country. It was strategically planned to put us at a loss, put them at a gain, criminalise us and mislead us. Joe Anderson, the mayor of Liverpool, was arrested under suspicion of planning corruption. It exists, right? I've got evidence on it in my investigation without doubt. It's been proved because they've had to make them go and put them correct again. What they won't do is acknowledge that all the multiple different areas where it was must have been planned. It couldn't have been, just an accident. It was strategically planned. It's strategic planning that facilitating the council to do it. Now, the government is magically sending funds and money to local councils, particularly Kirklees, and saying, you can do loads of building with this, or you can develop the town centre with this, right? But yet, the government, right, if it was for non-profit, fair enough. If it was public owned, like Royal Mail used to be, and like the energy companies used to be, fair enough. The Tories have taken ownership of the companies from us for profit, and now they are profiteering from those companies, and the central government, all the aristocracy are profiting from it, and the Tories, their big money contracts with the Department of Transport. Well, they had the Transport Minister resign, right? Now, the local council, when they award these contracts to the contractors, to the bus companies, to the builders, they're making money out of it. And it's a lot of money. And who's profiting is the shareholders of the contracts, right? Which is mainly the aristocracy at the top end of the scale, right? So the money, our tax money that has been taken from us to the government for funds, being funneled back into local council, that money is being given to jobs for contractors to do for profit, and who's making our money ends up in the profit of the contractors' owners and BlackRock Vanguard. They're taking our money off us, right? And we don't always want them to do what they're planning they're doing. In fact, we've got community group after community group after community group after community group opposing. But yet Tony Earnshaw is writing that the council couldn't give them monkeys. And they're going to plough on with it. Yet communities are frantically trying to do something. And then, like on mine, I've had my petition hacked and obstructed. When Alison Munro signed it, her signature wasn't added to the tally. And I've had my notes on my mobile phone have been hacked. I've sent evidence of that in and published it on the petition website. We're actually, who has an interest in these projects being successful is the contractors. And they've got a hell of a lot of money at stake. hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions, right? So if a couple of people from a village, or even the whole village, 3,000 people, don't want it to be built, like on the like in Ireland with the Glendruid Dolmen, they've got 3,000 people in that group, right? But yet, because they're building 400 houses, they automatically get permission. The council's got to intervene. Luckily, in that instance, the council are intervening, right? But in Ireland, they've even made it so you can't even make a comment or an objection unless you pay 20 euros. You must pay 20 euros to even make a comment or an observation. So you haven't even got an automatic right to comment. That's what the Tories were trying to do here. Boris was trying to remove the right to object because they were making that much money out of it. So it was all about the money and the profits, not actually about what the people want. Particularly when there are loads more areas you can build in that aren't heritage sites or cherished countryside. There are lots of areas. Yorkshire's a big place. It's got a lot of places all over Yorkshire that don't happen to be. There are lots of places where you won't get any community groups coming together and objecting, right? When you do get people objecting, and people don't want it built there, like at Meltham, or at Flockton when there was large opposition, why are they failing? I strongly believe there is hacking going on, and any mayor or any bus company or any contractor who wants to moderate this and remove the evidence and statement that I have a right to under British law long established is criminal, because they wish to censor something that will not only stop them, that prove that they're breaking the law. And that just... do I have a right to report crime to the police? Do I have a right to report crime to the council or the newspaper? The newspaper reports crime all day, publishes it. The newspaper publishes crime all day when it wants to, on what stories it fancies. Yet, when we include serious crime reports as part of our complaint, because there's a reason to complain, we suddenly find this moderation and omission because they don't like it. We're under control. We're now having our voice taken away. Never mind the mayor's big chat. We're being censored. And those talking buses were bringing a trend so people don't even talk to each other in the community. Like on the London Underground buses on the tube station, no one talks to each other. Look at the state of London. Look at the pollution London has got. You can't even drive cars in there without paying because of the pollution levels. If people would have talked to each other in the first place, they might have opposed the building and spread of London. People in London, big business people, oh yeah, house prices in London are through the roof. A lot of them retreat to the countryside after, where there isn't pollution when they go home on an evening or on a weekend. Because of that got much money, they've got multiple houses. We're having the right to speak taken away from us. And not only that, we're actually being strategically defeated. A strategic planning of the council is meant a plan where it might be good to put something or where something might be useful if people don't oppose it, right? It's not supposed to strategically plan in paid time as a full-time job when everyone else is at work and they can only oppose it in their own time when they come home, right? And they ain't got that much money spare. And when the council and the other authorities and the bus companies start trying to beat him and cheat, they'll lose will to carry on, right? We can't have a council strategic development that has an objective and goal of beating people. Because then your own council is not working for the community. It's working against the community. The people, John Ritchie, other people in the council, strategic development and building and planning, who might be giving awards to builders and affiliated with builders, and the council's roads department is a contractor called KIRKLEES, and they're their mates of the council who are mates with the football team, and they use the football team strategically on the promotions to win over the locals on their side, which is influencing the electors. How can you beat them? Skeleton council staff are meant to be unbiased. You vote a party in, then that party is in the council. If one party gets control, they're making decisions, but they've got to fairly assess the locals' opinions and petition votes and counts and what someone wants. You can't take over an area and then the council is meant to be elected to represent the people, right? But we've not got that. What we've got is the council, a full-time payment employed to think of ways to outwit, mislead the locals through various parking fines, the way the signs are written, through planning, because they don't want planning notices to be put out properly or adequately, and they don't have a proper, adequate investigation system on purpose, because Her Majesty's government and the aristocracy don't want the council staff to be able to investigate it or report it to the police, because then the methods and ways they're using of cheating the planning won't be stopped. They will continue. This is the problem. Illegal road signs, planning notices being cheated, planning being ignored, people trying to sign petitions. Mysteriously, people don't see it on Facebook. Yet they should do. It make it look like people don't support the cause when they do. Petitions being hacked. The actual petition platforms are not a very good way to run it to get signatures. In fact, you have to pay, and even Facebook ads is set up to be expensive, and you don't get that much back for your money. 38 Degrees won't let you sponsor petitions. They pick and choose which ones they will help. And Change.org have got half of its foreign people when they sign petitions who end up getting Nigerian ones signed, which are dubiously valid. But yet, and on Messenger, Sir Nick Clegg, former Prime Minister of England and now global president, they've got it set up so, even though I've got a group of 50,000 Facebook people who are all keen on the countryside and protecting it, I can't send messenger messages to each person to ask them to sign something because I've got a limit of 72 messages a day, right? It's obstructive and it's defeating to the point because they actually don't really want it to be a fair platform where people have got rights of communication. It's far from the mayor's big chat. Because the owners of the platforms are friendly with and affiliated with the BlackRock Vanguard Group, who are the profiteers of all the contractors and want to progress with more building jobs. Yet this is evidence. The BlackRock Vanguard videos here, you don't just watch it and then cast it aside. That's evidence to the police and council, KIRKLEES Council. We believe that these contractors that you are running and employing are making profits that are going to beneficiaries of the aristocracy and Tory party who don't want us to succeed in opposing the developments. Therefore, when we're trying to pursue opposing them, we don't seem to be getting anywhere because the internet and the platforms aren't working properly. There is something strange going on, like with the illegal road signs. They shouldn't be illegal, but they were. And they were misleading people. And there was a beneficiary, which was the council, fine department, and the police with prosecution figures. We're at a loss and we're criminalised. And the police get awards, like the builders get awards. It needs investigating. And if I can't publish evidence that my phone was hacked and that the petition was hacked and that it's been interfered with and that the local council strategic planning, even though the law says you can't influence electors through published stories and media, and anyone in the government can't be making a profit out of work that is commissioned by the council, yet it is profits being made, similar to what Nancy Pelosi's been accused of. There are laws in the Road Traffic Acts, the earlier ones, that say that the principle is illegal for those who commission work to be done on local roads and highways and even on the bus routes. When they're making a profit out of it, they're not allowed to. Yet the Tory beneficiaries, Earl Dartmouth, is profiteering from his housing project being fulfilled. And his party has a say in what the councils and government are meant to be doing. So they're manipulating and setting the procedures and rules so they can personally profit from it. Now, there is crime involved because the road signage was put out illegally, and I have an entire website of evidence to prove it that has been acknowledged in most as correct. And I've got evidence that planning notices weren't put out because when people don't see it and put an objection in time, then they get permission. They have an interest in the local people failing in their objections. We have the right to object. Now, Tony Earnshaw is writing his newspaper stories in Yorkshire Live in the manner that the government and local council are just ploughing ahead with housing and they don't care about, count or understand anything what the local people want or say. In fact, the strategic planning is working hard to get around it and to beat them, to defeat them. You can't have a council that's trying to beat you full-time paid when you're at work because it breaks the spirit. Now, we have got a designated area of outstanding natural beauty for the purpose of protecting against building that I have got over 1,000 signatures for, and I'm in pursuit of 3,000 to stop those housing developments at Fenny Bridge as part of that project. And it includes and concerns protecting Castle Hill and the other places within that designated area from building. And all of the signatures to oppose housing within my designated area that I've created are relevant and have to be amalgamated because I've created an area for a project where all signatures that are in line with protecting that area count. Now, why is Tony Earnshaw not mentioning this in the newspaper? Because it defeats the council's strategic planning objective, because they don't want it to succeed. Now, when the newspaper is aiding and betting on the council beating you, we've got a serious problem because it's criminal. Now, We don't have money because BlackRock, Vanguard and the aristocracy are taking all our money away for their benefit and using it against us, using us own taxation to strategically plan against us, and using profits from McDonald's, KFC, Subway, all the other companies they own, which are outlined in these videos, against us, and putting out advertisements everywhere pro their cause. Slogans and words to support their cause, to continue us buying their food and profiteering, and even using the television to do adverts to convince people to build houses and carry on doing gardens up when people might be content with their area. It's actually strategically defeating. Now, you tell me, how can I stop this council from building houses at Fenny Bridge when the strategic planning are trying to beat me with a full-time team and a full-time wage? How can I stop them? How can I, when the petition is being hacked? When his own police force won't prosecute the contractors who put out illegal road signage because the police helped them place it. And when the contractors are profiting and the aristocracy who are directing the police chief officers tell them not to prosecute the contractors because then the aristocracy will be losing money, such as Earl Dartmouth and his friends. We can't win. It is a war, and that's why they called it Waterloo after the Battle of Waterloo, when they ruined his heritage site, put the tram station there and the cinema, blocked off visual access to the ancient site, and then proceeded to ruin it and desiccate the area. And now still naming the buses darts, like they're throwing darts, a dart into town. They're throwing darts at us, and they're designing sinister characters on the buses to intimidate us, and then they're getting everyone to put fences and bars on their houses because the police haven't been adequately solving the crime and actually be increasing the crime, which is primarily from the ethnic community where crime's coming from, and that's what their figures say. They're confirming that in their figures. I haven't made that up. So what can we do? And is there even any point recording a complaint to the Mayor of West Yorkshire when it's all being moderated? It's like Tony Earnshaw and Kirklees Council are some sort of superior entity that cannot be stopped because they are using powers illegally to beat us. Now, we can't fairly engage in a campaign to oppose the council when it is using its affiliated parties and teams, the football team, the bus company, to help them win and beat us. It's unfair. And when they're hacking the petitions, and when Nick Clegg and Mark Zuckerberg have set up Facebook to prevent you from collecting large amounts of signatures to stop them, you're at a disadvantage politically. And this is why Russell Brand and Neil Oliver and Lawrence Fox are now talking about it openly on broadcast programmes on YouTube with their own channels, because the mainstream television will not say that the government is corrupt and who is behind it, and they will not say that the police have been helping them. We've got serious problems. It's like they're trying to ignore They're ignoring illegal road signs. They're ignoring planning, corruption, cheating. And they're ignoring weird things happening with petitions. Because when you acknowledge what's happening, who else would be behind it other than the people who want the contractors to succeed and can afford it? Who has got all the money? And what are they using that money for other than protecting their interests and securing their projects so we cannot stop them, which is unfair politics and it's actually criminal. This is the problem, and it's not just the buses. We've got serious problems with and it's not all councils. There are some councils who aren't that bad, who have adequate forms. When you find a council that's got serious issues, you always find out that the forms are very misleading and not easy to use. And when you get more honest political parties like the Lib Dems, the forms are always easier to complete and fill in. That's the problem. Part of the strategy to defeat us is by having forms that are not very user-friendly or compatible. Now, I'm going to submit this as my second complaint, and I'm going to put it on the petition, and I'm going to send it into the council, but they won't want to listen to it. And I'm not actually complaining about my councillor either, even though Tony Earnshaw's been writing that, it's the Lib Dems or whatever who have been claiming they're pushing ahead with the project, when actually our councillor's been opposing the building in the area and being very good. I don't believe a word Tony Earnshaw publishes, because he's published stories where I know it's complete total lies and fabrication, but no one can afford lawyers to prosecute because we don't have the money, because we've had the money taken off us. The money is being used to defeat us, to defeat our opposition, and it's actually being used to manipulate us through we're surrounded by their companies and adverts now, all sides, and their broadcasts on TV, on mainstream television and commercial radio. We have to have a fair, open playing field, but we're not being given it. Now, we've got enough signatures now, which is a very large amount, which lawfully, by the Local Petitions and Referendums Act, have to be amalgamated together. And if Kirklees Council are not going to halt their plans for Fenny Bridge and building, then they're in ignorance to fact, to evidence, to signatures. It's not actually just about that local area. It's actually about their contractors and who is applying for the building and who they're affiliated with. You have to know that. You have to know that Kirklees Council and other councils, you need to know that their contractors have been putting out illegal road signs with the police who won't prosecute them, because you need to know where you stand with the council. I'm opposing the council in the building and developments and roads, and some of their staff have been engaging in criminal activities with the management, and they're not going to like that. In fact, they've got an objective of building houses and doing roads, and they've been acting criminally, right? So when I send complaints in, they don't like it, and they don't want to prosecute it. In fact, they want to think it doesn't exist. You have to know that. It's critical to know the situation that you're in with the council. You have to know where you stand with these people and building and planning. People have been sneaking building projects like lots of different techniques depending on which site it is. Whether they didn't put the building, whether they didn't leave the planning notice out, or whether they had to use a different technique, or whether they just basically blagged it in the council chamber like Andrew Cooper's reported and other Green Party politicians have reported. It's not straightforward. We're dealing with human beings, right, who are not doing things properly and making sure they don't own up to it, making sure they evade being punished for it. Yet their job and employment through the day is to fine people for driving in bus lanes wrong as a punishment for breaking a law or rule. Fine people for not paying the council tax. They are being employed through the day to fine and punish citizens for misbehaviour. Yet, when they place and strategically plan illegal, criminal road signage, and they do developments, and the contractors cheat the planning regulations, and the council are told and trained to disregard it and to ignore it, they're not being fined and prosecuted. But we're at war, which is why Dalton got called Waterloo when it defeated our heritage site at the Warriors' Mound, and they called it a toilet, Waterloo, because King George built the ICI and proceeded to continue to ruin the area after the Victoria Tower was put on because of our Liberal Party heritage, because they didn't like the area being celebrated. And still now we're getting called the darts. We're having darts run into us. I think the council like the TRANSDEV bus writing because they think we are the sinister imps that are being winked on the bus, yet it is the council and Earl Dartmouth, yet they're putting it on us and making us feel uncomfortable and pretending their crimes don't exist. It's over 10 years since I did the other campaign, and nothing has been done because these people are above the law or claim they are above the law. They need prosecuting, but the CPS can't prosecute them because Keir is Keir. And Sir Keir Starmer, head of the Crown Prosecution Service, is Keir's emblem. You can't prosecute Keir, the company, for illegal road signage and planning corruption, and the council because of their name. The name means everything to them. Keir is a knight of the realm who's protected, and the head of prosecution, and now the head of Labour, and the mayor of West Yorkshire is Labour. So how can we get Keir prosecuted when Keir is in armour protected? How?